What's going on, beautiful people? Welcome back to another amazing and impactful episode of the True Health Forever podcast, where we share our best life through the lens of holistic health. It's always a gamble with that, right? You never know what's going to happen. I'm your host, Devon Truvel, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game. And as usual, I am honored to be with the beautiful, the smiling, the diamond-rific, the curl hair popping, the queen of travel herself. Please introduce yourself.
What's up, beautiful party people?
Yeah.
My name is Sinclair, aka
The
Health Nerd, and excited to join you on this Saturday afternoon. Yes,
took
it's
a
afternoon.
long break on that.
I know.
What day is it? What time is it?
It's just it's a whirlwind.
All that. If you're watching live, watching on replay, go ahead and share this video right now. This is going to be, I think, a pretty good one, pretty historical, literally version of the podcast.
Oh yeah.
So as y'all know, maybe you don't, we just got back from Tulsa,
Oklahoma.
The home of Black Wall Street, the home of Greenwood, the home of Little Africa. A lot of really dope vibes. And I don't know why we kept getting this question, because it makes complete sense to me. But a lot of people were like, what are you doing in Tulsa? Why are you in Tulsa?
Right.
Why are y'all going to Tulsa?
Right.
It's like, do y'all not know we made a board game on that history?
Right.
So I feel like for us, it was almost like a mandatory
Mando.
that was the word of the trip. Mando trip to go out there, go to the source of the history that we've built the board game on, go to the source of the history that we kind of, at least I know I connect to it. I feel like you're definitely on that wave too, of Black wealth, financial literacy, Black excellence. Like, why not go to one of the root cities, one of the meccas, as we call it, for Black independence and cooperative economics? And we definitely suggest that all of y'all at some point travel to whatever your quote unquote mecca, or as the queen says, meccas. What that is, right? For us, for wealth, it's going to be Greenwood. It's also going to be Ghana. It's also going to be Jamaica. It's also going to be Cuba. It's also going to be, I'm trying to think of another place that's a mecca for us. We've been to Brooklyn already, but kind of Brooklyn for the hip hop culture. You have another one?
I feel like in terms of just healthy living, I feel like Costa Rica has always been a place that I've wanted to go, because I feel like they just embody everything that is living naturally, living healthy, living an active lifestyle. Like, they do it right. So that's one of the reasons why I really want to go there.
Nice. Let's put it on the list. So long story short, y'all definitely, we traveled there. We'll get into a little bit further on why we did in our journey, but highly encourage anyone listening to travel to your mecca that really identifies with your identity or with the values of your life. But without further ado, let's get into the episode. Get it. Oh, we back. All right, cool. Welcome back. Y'all know we just be dancing out here. So to answer the question, right, why did y'all go to Black Wall Street? If you don't know, or this is your first time interacting with the podcast, welcome. The first time interacting with the YouTube, welcome. But back in 2017, we created Black Wall Street, the board game. Shout out to the t-shirts. We out here. But the reason why we made it, and I don't know how deep into the backstory you want to get into, but quick backstory, because I just left Luker's house actually this morning. It was dope.
Yes.
This man had a private chef up there. Like, we walked into his house. Private chef was in. He was like, "Oh yes, welcome. This is the private chef who'll be cooking for us today." We were all like, what? This was not on the agenda for today's meeting. He was like, yeah, I just went ahead. We go into the backyard set up all nice with gold plates and stuff, like a gala almost. In his backyard, he has a nice little gazebo. They're like, "Oh, how you doing, King? What would you like on the menu?" Go ahead and circle. They had printed menus. Wow. Go ahead and put your name on it, King, and let me know what you want. I'm like, well, where am I right now?
Can I just tell you a quick backstory? So when you left, I was like, let me make my coffee. We got some donuts for dessert, so I had some leftover donuts. And I was like, oh, you know what? Let me make myself a little breakfast here. And then I noticed you were gone, and I looked at the calendar. I was like, okay, he's at the retreat. They'll probably feed him there. I was like, well, let me make myself a little breakfast. So I chopped up a potato, made myself some little breakfast potatoes, had made some eggs, some fried eggs, and I was enjoying that. And I was like, oh man, what if they don't feed him? Maybe I should make some breakfast for my king too. 30 seconds later, I get a text with the pictures of what he ate. I said,
I deserve this
myself.
Yeah, and I texted her like, I'm so sorry.
Yes.
I had no idea there's gonna be food here. I would have snuck you in something. But that was a very long-winded backstory to say that man, Fluke, hosts a summer camp, Village Nation summer camp. Every summer he brings kids from LA, Inland Empire, and we go up to Big Bear Unicamp. The Queen's been there. Yep. You went there once, twice? Once. We want you back this year if you're willing. But at that camp, my first year was 2017. You have to create your camper name. And the point of that is to kind of remove yourself from the trauma, from the experiences that you may have in your household, in your neighborhood, and you're stepping into this environment with a name that you've chosen to empower yourself. So you can choose Queen, Health Nerd, you can choose Captain Lens, you can choose the name Black Wall Street, which was my name. But when I was there, none of the students knew about Black Wall Street. They were all like, "Oh, what does Black Wall Street mean? Is it the stock market? Is it the black version of the stock market of Wall Street?" And it's like, no. And I explained it. None of them knew. So leaving the camp, I called the Queen and I was like, "You know what, Queen? What do you think about a board game that's kind of like Monopoly, but that's built on the history of Tulsa's Black Wall Street?" And Queen, what did you say?
That has to exist. Somebody has had to have thought of that. I was like, that's a great idea. But usually with a great idea, somebody has already thought of it.
Right. So we did a little bit of research. We looked up literally like Black Monopoly, Black Wall Street games. And unfortunately, it was just a whole bunch of like real ignorance, a lot of stereotypes, baby mama drama, drugs, going to jail, gangs stuff. So it's like stuff that may be in our society, but in my opinion, isn't ingrained into our identities and our culture, and definitely not tapping into what Black Wall Street and Greenwood stood for. So we did our research. We put in the information as much as possible into a game. And then the next year we had 25 prototypes to be able to give to Fluke and to give to some of the students out there. So that was the inception of Black Wall Street in 2017, when it wasn't that popular. Right. There wasn't a whole bunch of different Instagrams and pages doing about Black Wall Street. There weren't a lot of events around it, but it was a point in history that we felt like should be told more often. And specifically, we were trying to solve kind of 3 problems at once with this board game. Number 1 was to help people know more about Black Wall Street. Right.
We both learned about it in college.
Right.
So imagine, and that was just because we happened to take an AAS class. It wasn't a part of our majors. Most people don't take that class. So it's like, imagine how many people, and we even learned even further, we'll get to that later, how many people, even in Tulsa, don't know or were just learning about Black Wall Street.
Facts. So we were like, all right, how can we teach people, and not even like teach people the whole history, but introduce them to the concept of Black Wall Street? Because everybody plays games. Everyone likes games. Almost every house has a Monopoly, has a Sorry, has a Scrabble. So it's like, why not slip in a little bit of Black culture while y'all are playing this game? So number 1 was increase the awareness of Tulsa's Black Wall Street. Number 2 was increasing financial literacy, specifically within our young folks, within our families, period. So they start to know what's a sole proprietor, what's an LLC, what's a corporation, what are taxes, what are licenses, like all this stuff that you're going to, get introduced to within the game. And the third one is the 2053 projected wealth. You remember what it is?
0.
It's an easy number to remember, right? So the 2053 median family income for a Black American is projected to be 0 by the year 2053. And when we learned that, we were like, what? That's what they thinking about us right now? Like, as we're building out our family, we're getting our little kids situated. No, they're not here yet, but we still manifesting. Like, as we doing all that, you're saying our family median income is going to be 0. The people that we know is going to be 0. We're like, nah. We're not going to have that. So that's why there's a lot of education also packed into the rule book on forming LLCs, on budgeting, on intellectual property, all that good stuff also within the rule book. I say all of that, right, just to give you the context. This year was the 100th year anniversary, or the 100th year commemoration of the bombing and massacre of Tulsa's Black Wall Street. There was no way we weren't going to be there.
What?
There was no way. Like, we built a board game on this history, right? We have a very deep-rooted passion in Black economics, in ownership, in health. Unfortunately, the health clinic that we were trying to visit wasn't open while we were out there. But a lot of the things that we're passionate in literally are in Greenwood, and especially when 100 years back in the day, we're in Greenwood. So there was no way, with what we believe in and the brand that we're building, we weren't going to be in town.
Right.
That's why we were there. All right? That was a very long-winded answer on why we were even there in the first place. Queen, please keep me on track. Yes. Because I'm very excited to share some of the things that we were able to do. But I want to stay on track because we're trying to keep these podcasts to 45 minutes. And I talk. So, Queen, tell me what's next.
Let's talk about some highlights. Let's go over some highlights.
Let's talk about some highlights. All right. There's a lot of highlights for sure. Number one. Go ahead.
Let's talk about the tour. The tour with Mr. Terry.
Okay, so we did have an amazing tour with Terry Backus from the Greenwood Chamber of Commerce. And I believe we have a video on there that's showing like how long Greenwood is, and kind of showing the surrounding elements of it. And hopefully we can show that in a second. But boom. So right now, if you're watching on the screen, you're seeing how long Greenwood is. And this street right here is Greenwood Avenue. And it's literally a mile long, right? So we read about Tulsa Black Wall Street. We read about the 600 Black-owned businesses. We read about the almost 10,000 people that were living within Greenwood. We learn about this stuff in books. But then to be there, right, to get this tour from Terry, and Terry goes into like some deep details. We were on that tour for like 3 hours
bro. And cut it short.
And it was cut short, but we were out there walking. We got like our 14,000 steps in. So if you're in a step challenge, go ahead and go to Tulsa, get you a tour with Terry, and he got you. But learning the stuff, like just the little small details, I think was dope.
And then in that specific instance, he was breaking down and physically showing us how right now, if you were to go to Greenwood, you see what they're kind of calling Black Wall Street is like a 2-block, not even like radius. It's like a little like two by 2 block, part of the city, and it's kind of wedged in between some train tracks and a freeway. And that's more about the history. I don't know if we're going to get into that later, but there's history about why it's kind of wedged in between those square blocks. But he was showing us, we walked way past that. We walked down towards where the video just showed, and he was showing us Black Wall Street went all the way from where it is right now, where basically where the train tracks start, all the way past the university, what's it called? Oklahoma State University campus. And it was, like you said, a mile long, 46
blocks.
46 blocks. So he was showing like, this is what used to exist, and this is what it looks like now. And it was crazy.
Right. It's crazy to imagine that.
Yeah.
We'll get into a little bit more history, but what she was saying, there was the Frisco tracks. Right. And originally, even back in like the 1897, or more accurately, probably 1905, the Frisco tracks was like the main divider. When you think about redlining, the Frisco tracks was the main divider to show this is where white people can live in the downtown Tulsa in this area. And this is where the Black people, this is where the Native American indigenous people can live on the other side of the Frisco tracks. So that was one way. Then in like, I think the 80s, they said there was urban renewal, and they were like, we need to put freeways in here. We need a university in Tulsa. We need to do all this stuff to renew the city of Tulsa and add value. Now, the crazy part is, did they have to put it right there?
No.
There was tons of other land available that I'm sure they could have used, but the people put it right in the middle of Greenwood freeway over William Dreamland Theater. Right, which was rebuilt, and that's a business that's on the board game, and it literally cut Greenwood to where it's now just this 2-3 blocks. and they took it out of eminent domain, which we're not going to cover here, but that's when the city or whoever owns that land can just say, like, we need this land, so we're going to pay you X amount of dollars to leave, or we're just going to take it without paying you regardless. So yeah, that was also interesting because we know the history, we know, quote unquote, the history of the massacre and the history of the riots and the bombing and all of that. But I don't think they teach us the strategic moves that were done afterwards through eminent domain, through urban renewal, through gentrification to then repossess the land. So it was interesting to learn that stuff that was happening within the last 40, 50 years.
Right.